Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Black Sheep Podcast. I am your host, or one of your hosts, Mike.
I am Meka.
And we are the Black Sheep. We've got a very special guest here today. As you can see, for those of you who are viewing this, we've got a little bit of a different camera angle set up, and that's because we've got a special guest here on the show today. The CEO and founder of the Black Wall Street Times, which happens to be the producers of this podcast. The Black Sheep Podcast would not be here without the Black Wall Street Times. So we've got the founder and CEO today to kind of give us the backstory of the Black Wall Street Times, as well as himself and kind of where we're going. So Nehemiah Frank here is on the show today. Let's give it up for.
I had to get mine in.
All right, but Nehemiah Frank here on the show today, everybody.
I'm feeling hyped now that y'all hit that.
Good,
Awesome.
good.
So, me and Nehemiah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a native Tulsan. I was born here at Hillcrest Medical Center, about, I think it's like 2 miles from here. I am a North Sider. Left here when I was 6, lived all across the country, and decided to move back because most of my family members, they all live here in Tulsa. So it's nice to be back home for a little bit.
How old were you when you moved back?
I was 29 when I moved back to Tulsa.
What year was that?
Oh my gosh, guys.
Yeah.
Make me do some math. I'm 40. Well, I'm 38 now. So
I think you were.
yeah.
So like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So I've been here a little longer. So,
Dang, what was Tulsa like when you came back?
I mean, they were just starting to build new stuff here. So.
yeah, that's what I was interested in, is how you've seen the kind of expansion of Tulsa, especially this part of Tulsa, where we're at. Here at the podcast, we shoot it at the Black Wall Street Times headquarters, which is on Archer, which is in the heart of what used to be called Black Wall Street. But Black Sheep Podcast, we shoot it inside the Black Wall Street Times, which is in the heart of Black Wall Street over on Archer. So give us a little, for those of you, give the listeners maybe a brief backstory of how the Black Wall Street Times came to be, kind of what was your inspiration in starting it.
And like, what was it? Because I think people know of it now, but when you started, it wasn't what it is now. So give us the bare bones.
It definitely wasn't what it is now. I would definitely say it started off as a little blog. And I actually had a friend who I wanted to start it with, and he was a journalist student. But the issue was he was having such a difficult time getting a job in Oklahoma as a journalist. And I was like, well, why don't you just start your own thing? That was the very beginning of the Black Wall Street Times.
Yeah.
But I guess he just didn't have the vision, to really see how big it could be.
Was he a black guy as well?
He was a brother.
Yeah.
And another reason why I brought it up was just because there was no representation really. Like, we have the Oklahoma Eagle, but I mean, 9 years ago, I would walk into a gas station and pick up the Oklahoma Eagle, and the things just were not popping like they used to be. And that is the case for many historic Black newspapers across the country. Even Jet Magazine and Ebony, like, they've seen major transitions, briefly going out of business and distribution, and having to get another owner to relaunch that legacy that they've built. So with the Black Wall Street Times, I knew something still needed to be done. The Tulsa world wasn't really representing our community the way that I felt that they should be. Even the other publications, the smaller publications around town, weren't really capturing like the ethos of what it is to be a Black Tulsan or to be from here. And so that was the reason why I started the Black Wall Street Times. I saw that there was a space that needed to be filled, and I believe that God appointed me to be the man for the job.
Yeah. Now you have there's also some ties there with you to the Black Wall Street, historic Black Wall Street. Maybe share, what are those ties that you have to the area?
Yeah. So on my mom's side, my mother's people, they came here in the 40s. But my dad's people, they were here before. They were here during the birth of Black Wall Street. So they were here when O.W. Gurley was running around, when A.J. Smitherman was running around, and probably knew them.
And that was in the early 20s. Correct?
Yeah, that was in the teens and the 20s, and then once the community was destroyed during the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, they stayed here. And I assume that they probably lived in tents, because I don't know where else they could have gone. Maybe perhaps they may have gone to a relative's house in one of the nearby Black towns. But they stayed, they rebuilt, and they continued. And I always wondered, like, why didn't y'all just leave? Mm-hmm. I would have been gone. You got 10,000 white men and racist folks coming across the tracks and trying to kill everybody in sight. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have came back, but the more research I did on my family history, I began to see why they stayed. And they were one of the wealthiest Black families in the Black Wall Street, in the Greenwood district at the time. And so that was the reason why they stayed. They had real estate. They owned a few buildings where there were apartments that they leased out to people. They owned a shoe shine parlor, which really was a front because they were gambling in the back illegally. And they owned a tailor shop. So all of those things.
I think we learned during the centennial this year, the Black Wall Street Times put out a magazine called Greenwood 100 that kind of commemorates Black Wall Street, because this is the 100-year anniversary. Well, 2021 was the 100-year anniversary. And I remember us doing different projects during that time. And one of the things we just talked about as a team here at the Black Wall Street Times was the resilience. Like, resilience truly defines the people who stayed after the massacre and stuff. Because like you just said, like, a lot of people, I would probably include myself in that now, but like, man, if something like that happened to my community, I would probably be out, because I couldn't see myself living in the same city with the people who tried to kill me the week before, right?
Tried to eradicate you.
Right, exactly. And so the resilience of the Black people who stayed after that and rebuilt is, those are the true heroes. You talk about resilience and steadfastness, and like they embody that to a T. And I remember us like kind of just realizing that and just like thinking about that during the centennial is powerful.
I would think that, how trauma gets passed down, resilience gets passed down too, because look at what you're built. And that's coming off the strength of like your history. I mean, that's in you. So I want to know, when you started Black Wall Street Times, was there resistance in that time to, what you were trying to create?
Inner resistance? No. Like, I've always had a very, I've always tried things. Like, my mom was very, how do I describe my mother? I would just say my family in general, like, they just have on both sides, have a really narrow, whenever it comes to work, they have a really strong work ethic. Mm-hmm. And it is stronger than most families that I see, regardless of race. And it's, you're never going to get to where you're trying to go. You're never going to get your vision to become your reality unless you don't put in some hard work. Mm. And so that is one thing that I've always I feel like I've taken from them. And so when it came to the Black Wall Street Times, it's like, well, I don't know how to build a website, but I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how to, be a great journalist, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, because you didn't go to school for journalism,
I didn't. I went to school for political science. And I don't even I'm not great at social media, but I'm going to figure it out. It's probably going to take some time. I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes. And there will be people that will criticize me and tell me that I am not, smart enough or skilled enough. I just ignored all of it. And now this is where we are.
So where we are now. So I want to know, was it just, because you said it started off like a blog. So you were just picking up stories and writing and just posting, right?
Yeah.
When did it transition to something bigger than just you? Like, when did you know so you're writing, when is it like, all right, I need to get some other writers, or I just want to know what the transition was like.
Yeah. So I would say the first big story that I wrote was that of a personal friend's daughter. She had won the state championship for gymnastics. I used to be a gymnastics coach, so I did a little story on that. And a lot of people were into it. They were like, oh, wow, this happened in our community. Someone from our little community in North Tulsa or Black Tulsa is, winning at the age of 9. And so after that story, this one was like, oh, well, maybe this could be something bigger. And even before I started publishing, I remember my friend Mikhail saying, this is bigger. This is going to be so huge. Mm-hmm. You have no idea that you're standing in front of a waterfall and you can't even see how big it's going to be. And I think it's because of the name itself, the Black Wall Street Times. Yeah. That name is so powerful. Mm-hmm. Like anywhere I go, if I'm in an airport or if I'm, at some event in Atlanta, people will stop me if I have Black Wall Street stuff on. And they'll ask me about it, or they'll say, where can I get that? So the brand name alone is it says a lot without, even delivering on that. And so I had to make sure that, the company was going to match the strength of that name. And I feel like we're getting there. I don't think that we're there yet, but yeah, I probably didn't even answer your question.
No, but that reminds me of an early memory that I have of you. We were at the Tulsa, the TCC Creativity Center. There was something going on. It might have been a pitch night for some kids, but I remember at the end of it, there was a conversation with, at the time, a certain councilman that was talking to you and saying something along the lines of, I think he was trying to get at you for calling something out, and he wanted you to be more politically correct. Do you remember who I'm talking about? I'm not one to put out names, but
yeah,
he used to own a couple restaurants. He used to own a couple restaurants around here.
I can't even remember his name. The really tall guy, though, the real big one.
And I remember just I was talking to someone on the side, and I'm just hearing him say, hey, Nehemiah, you got something big here, but you got to watch how you talk and watch the toes that you step on. And I remember after we had a conversation, it's like, yo, bro, you just do you. I distinctly remember us kind of had just briefly yo, do you. Forget what everybody else saying. Mm-hmm. And you have pushed through, and the articles you guys write are big time articles, and y'all speak the truth.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I first started working here. I started working at the Black Wall Street Times towards I think December of 2020. And one of the first things you had said, Nehemiah, to me was, even when we created this space here, is we're going to be unapologetically Black, right?
Blackity black.
Blackity black. We're not gonna, tone ourselves down to try and appease white people or to try and cater to white guilt. Of course, we're not gonna stoke those things, right? But we're just gonna be true to who we are, and that was very refreshing to hear. Because, I didn't come from a journalistic background or anything like that. So I'm already entering in this space with imposter syndrome. Because I'm just damn, I'm about to write for a publication and I have no training. But yet here's the founder who didn't have any official training in journalism as well. And he's telling me and telling the team to be our authentic selves. Just the empowerment in that was powerful. And I think that plays a large part into why people enjoy, following along with us and supporting us, is because they know at the Black Wall Street Times, like, they're going to be real. Like, they're not going to be this, they're not going to be like CNN or Fox or these like other huge major corporations where, what typical big media does. But yeah, what I enjoy about us and what I hear from people like who get our, subscribe to us and stuff like that, is they enjoy just the realness in what we put out.
Why do we have to apologize for being ourselves?
Right.
As Black people.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I would think that it's an authenticity that is what draws people, and people are always going to be drawn to what's real. And even when I look at journalism, and it's like all other institutions in America, you have to, when I look back on who is teaching and what was brought in journalistic classes, was there history of your experience or our experience? Is that taught through you used the word earlier, the ethos, and is that in the ethos of education? And for a lot of institutions, it's not. I work in the mental health field, and I work in a school in which, when I look at psychology, I have to ask myself, okay, well, whose psychology am I learning? I have to take a national test that gives me a license to do psychology. And it's like, okay, I'm learning about Freud, but does Freud know anything about like the history of a kid growing up in North Tulsa? Like, does any of that come out? And so I think when it comes to what we do as Black people, men, women, like, we have to bring our authentic selves, because that's everything. So
yeah, you said like the systems in place were not created for us. And we did an article, what was it, like 2 months ago, about the boy who, it was the image of a pregnancy, but it was with a Black baby, right? For the first time, because, in all of our books that we learn about in science class and stuff, like the body images and stuff are always of white people. And so it was showing a child inside the mother's womb and stuff, and giving the names for all the different organs and stuff. We've always learned that through a white example, right? Yeah. And so this one, it's crazy that in 2021, that was the first time a lot of people have seen a Black diagram of, a pregnancy, a child in the womb and stuff like that.
And the reaction from the public.
Yeah.
Even in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. Even in Africa, you see these people are like, oh my gosh, you're just freaking out. I'm like, and then white woman from Bixby or someone from, Edmond, they're shocked.
Right.
Why is this such a trend? Why are people freaking out over this? Well, they're freaking out because they've never seen it. And you're not freaking out because you don't see race. And that is a big old problem, like it is a problem.
That reminds me of when they came out with the black colored bandages.
Oh, Band-Aids.
Yeah. Band-Aids, bandages. And people were freaking out. And it's like, you're freaking out because it's like you just said, it's like, yo, you've always seen your color. Like, it's nothing, it's foreign, it's not foreign to you. For you. And so now, like, it looks foreign to you, and you got a problem with the fact that I got a Band-Aid that's my color now.
Right.
Yeah. Or I remember my youngest sister does ballet and stuff, and ballerinas, a lot of them for the first time are getting black shoes to match their skin color.
Wow. Because
ballet shoes are that peach color to match white people's skin, because so it looks all in unison and stuff. And there's been a recent uptick in Black ballerinas coloring their shoes brown or getting brown shoes. For the large part of the population that's white doesn't understand how just impactful it is to see stuff that's like made for you and stuff. And so that's why, it's great to
everything is made for them.
Right.
So
now to have a media outlet that is made for Black people, but not just Black people, but to amplify the stories of Black people that like you said, often get overlooked or not told. You know, I just know Black people, there's a sense of ownership with our, you know, publication and stuff. But it's not just for Black people, right? Like I
Right.
believe, what is it? Is it half of our viewership? Probably close to half is are white people.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's the, do you see like an importance or responsibility with that? The fact that like so many white people tune into your publication, like what is your like goals or hopes with that?
Yeah. So my goal and my hope is that they'll be able to ask questions, right? Be able to look inward, and see that, you know, our problems are their problems. Our history is their history. So yeah, absolutely.
I got a question with the present day. Right now, you own thank you, sir, a Black media company. And so what is the, like right now, what is the, what's my word I'm looking for? The
Trajectory.
Not trajectory. Keep going. Keep help me out here. Not trajectory, but like right now, the need, there is a Jesus.
So where are we currently at as a Black? Like, what do you?
Jesus Christ. People, I'm having the brain fart. You have a Black media company. And right now I want to know, in the current day, the need for a Black media company, and what do you think Black Wall Street Times is doing for representation?
Well, yesterday I sat on a panel for the Aspen Institute, and we were talking about the gatekeepers in media. And so in the past, we have, I don't know how many Black people have tried to send their opinions or their letters, you know, to the Tulsa world, only to have them rejected or overlooked. And to be honest, like the majority of the Tulsa world's audience, right, the readership, they don't want to hear from Black people. Let's just keep it 100.
Yeah.
Many of the people that are here are the descendants of the people who burned down, you know, by community. So of course it's going to be difficult for you to have your opinion elevated or amplified, you know, to a larger audience. So when I came into the Black Wall Street Times, once I realized that this thing was bigger than myself, I made it my mission to make sure that access was access to being able to have your Black voice amplified and elevated, your Black issues or experience elevated, not only to Tulsa, but to the nation, because that's the importance and the power of Black media. We've broken several national stories right out of tiny little old Oklahoma, you know, this tiny little bitty publication. And people are looking in. They're, you know, we're a spotlight. If we can't go to the Tulsa world to try to have our issues amplified, then we ought to make our own way, right? Draw our own circle. If the other publication, the other Black publication in town, maybe thinks that we're just a little too progressive, or we're a little too young, or, you know, or wet behind the ear, then we can still make our own circle and amplify our voices.
One, thank you for taking my crap of a question and turning, and you answered it exactly. That was what I was trying to ask you. And I love the fact that you're talking about, you know, if they don't want to, you know, give us a seat at the table, we'll build our own table.
That's right.
Yeah. Brain fart again. Yeah. So where you said that Black Wall Street Times has broken a few national stories. So kind of tell the listeners, maybe give them an idea of where we are now, because we've got some new, we are growing nationally and stuff. So maybe give people like a brief picture, kind of what's happening with the Black Wall Street Times now. So then that will set up kind of where we're going in the future.
And I also want to touch on the fact that like last year was a huge year for Black Wall Street Times. So touch on a little bit of like,
Okay,
what
past year / where
Yes.
we are now, like kind of how things are growing.
How we're expanding nationally. I tried to turn this into a nonprofit, and just have the Times be an Oklahoma thing. But I began to realize that the same issues that we were having here, as far as begging a media company with gatekeepers who don't care about our issues as Black people, they were doing the same things in their cities, in their communities. There is a deficit when it comes to our issues getting to the national to the national media. You think about like all of the Black girls that are missing across the country. Well, why don't we know about them? And people will say, well, why isn't Black media report? Well, Black media is reporting. They're just not big companies.
Yeah.
Though they might make it to the root, but they have a small staff too, so they only have so much that, they're researchers out there just reading Black publications to discover a story that needs to hit the national media. And so like there's a little girl named Journey, right? Journey went to school and she had her hair cut by a teacher. And that dad was doing everything. He was pretty much fighting the school district by himself, this Black dad. Journey was at a majority white school district in a majority, white county. Went to the local news, called the local news stations, called the local papers. No one cared about his story. It seems like just over the last 5 years, really under the last administration, that white America has become tone deaf. Some of them are, ashamed to even admit that this nation has had a horrible racist history. So white people are tired of talking about racism. They don't want to hear nothing about it anymore.
And every time they say that, they say, "Are we still talking about race?"
Right.
Well, damn it! Imagine living through that, that shit daily.
And so, Journey, she's by herself. It's like, well, who's gonna help amplify the abuse this little girl went through? She didn't even want to go to school anymore after her hair got cut. And we put the story in the Black Wall Street Times. And then the next thing you know, it blew up. NBC, Good Morning America, Fox News, all of the major, even the BBC.
I was gonna say we had an international. They linked us. Yeah.
They were talking about this little, mixed girl who had her hair cut by her teacher.
Right.
And even, there's another Xavier, another kid, who was incarcerated at school, inside. They locked him in there. Nothing to sit on. It was a concrete room. It was worse than a jail cell.
Yeah.
And, we blew that up to a national and international story. So there is a lack of representation across the country, especially in the South, when it comes to Black people having access to having their stories and their issues amplified to people who can actually make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And so that has led to us getting a relationship with the White House and being able to be on calls to say, hey, this is happening in our community.
That's
and
dope.
We need y'all to do something about it. During the Betty Shelby trial, Betty Shelby, the former Tulsa police officer who murdered Terrence Crutcher, the local media had their narrative that they were running with. And where were the Black reporters? There were no Black reporters reporting, on this story. And so once again, we are in a position where we have to trust, the descendants of the people who, again,
Committed the
massacred,
massacre,
all of these Black people and burnt down the community. We have to trust that they're going to tell our story the way the way that we would like them to. And they're not going to do that because their readership doesn't want to hear
Doesn't
that.
want it, yeah.
They're not for that. And if they hear that, then they're going to abandon, the publication, and they don't want that either. So
Yeah.
at the compromise of our Black lives and our existence. And so that is the importance of Black media. So during that trial, we were able to control our own narrative and say exactly how things were. And that led to, me having to do an interview in front of the entire country, CNN, all that. That was like the first big breakout moment for the Black Wall Street Times was in 2017.
Man, that's awesome. So I do want to acknowledge you because I've seen the passion that goes behind these stories. Because these aren't just stories that you guys are all writing. Like, you guys are definitely injected into the lives of the names and what is actually going on with these people. I'm reminded of Julius Jones' case. You guys were all over that case and very emotional about it. It was a very emotional time for Black Wall Street Times staff and everyone. Both of you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, reporting on like journalists at the ground level, not like the Chris Tucker. Is his name Chris Tucker? It's the Black comedian.
Chris Tucker? Yeah.
Okay.
Or Chris Rock?
I almost said Chris Rock too. Who's the white guy? Carl Tucker on Fox?
Oh, Tucker Carlson?
Yeah.
I messed that all up.
The man child.
Right. What I was gonna say was guys like that, Tucker Carlson, the guys who are on the TV and stuff, Don Lemon, they have teams who go out and do the research and stuff for them. But when you get down to the ground level journalists, like your local media outlets and stuff, those journalists and stuff are actually the ones out going to the stories, interviewing the families themselves, staying up, doing research for hours and stuff. And so there is a level of almost like you ingest the trauma and stuff. Like I've told you throughout last year, 2021, the different stories we reported on stuff. I did not realize the level that each story will kind of sit with you and stuff. I'm pretty passionate about police misconduct and social justice. And so, watching repeated body cam footage of police officers shooting a 16-year-old boy in OKC, 15 police officers shooting one 15-year-old boy, right? Or, seeing different police shootings, it feels like month after month. That shit is heavy. It is heavy as hell, reporting on each story, learning the facts, and all of that. And so that was a part of the job that I did not realize was there. And I think overall, people probably you should give a little bit more grace to those people who are trying to do the work of telling the stories and stuff, because reporters and journalists and stuff at the ground level, their jobs are not easy. And as much as people like to shit on the quote media and talk about how bad the media is, no, the ones who are at the ground level, the smaller publications putting out stories and doing the work, they actually need a heap of praise.
Yeah.
You guys touch trauma. You not only touch it, you unpack it and repackage it for the world to digest.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
Yeah, I would say Black journalists, the difference between Black journalist and white journalist. And people can, they can say whatever they want to say about, my opinion, but it is my opinion that we don't just go back to, I can't take my Black skin off, when it comes to reporting on voting rights for Black people. That means that I, as a Black journalist, am going to suffer, just like every, all of the people that I'm reporting are going to suffer when it comes to voter suppression of Black folks. When I'm reporting on the education deficits, the achievement gap, that means that my family members, that this is affecting my family members because we're Black people. When it comes to Black people being, the most likely to experience police brutality, the most likely to be on death row, the most likely to have a health disparity. That means I'm talking about my community, my family. And so that is the depth. Like, we internalize what we write more so because it affects us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, with every story, you can envision, man, this is either my friend or a family member. Like, I remember I did a story like a couple months ago about police officers brutalizing a quad who was driving in the vehicle. And, they pulled him out of his car.
By quad, he means quadriplegic.
Yes. Pulled him out of his car, even though he's pleading with him like, yo, like, I can't get out of the car. My legs can't move, right? And the police officers just yank him out of his car and throw him on the ground.
By his hair.
Right. Yeah. By his locks. And I'm just going, well, shit. I mean, to me, when I'm reporting, I'm like, I can see Meka in this story. And so, there is a level of internalized trauma with each story that it helps just to talk out loud with other people about, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Something about being heard that in its own self is therapeutic. Man, as we wrap, man, I just want to know, so what is the immediate future of Black Wall Street Times? What's the immediate and what's the long-term future?
I hope I'm included in that. Yeah, well, we're gonna get rid of Mike.
No, Mike. So the immediate future, right now we're raising capital. The goal is $2.5 million to expand, to have the resources to really make an impact nationally. So we're already nationally, but in order to be able to compete with these bigger media companies like The Root and The Griot, we need the funding. And so that is the immediate goal.
Yes, 2.5 mil. So Drake, if you're listening, feel free to cut a check.
But think about that. Think about how crazy it is to start something from a blog level to now you're in a position to, I'm making a $2.5 million ask.
Oh, well, I went with him. We were at the Oklahoma Thunder arena. We're at mid-court. I'm sitting front row, like in an empty arena, and he's making a pitch of the Black Wall Street Times to venture capitalists, to angel investors and stuff. And I'm sitting here just going, damn, I don't really belong in this room. like I'll be they don't know, but I'll be playing Fortnite at home. And here I am, in the midst of angel investors and venture capitalists. I'm just like, oh man. So yes, I cannot even imagine, Neil, you talked to the team about it a lot. Just it's good to have moments of just reflection and appreciation for how far something has come and grown, and to start from a blog to pitching to angel investors and venture capitalist firms. It's like, I can't even imagine.
As we wrap, I just want to again acknowledge you for the work that you put in, the personal work, the professional work.
We haven't even touched the personal work yet, so we're gonna have to have you back on another show, because this was all just professional Nehemiah Frank, personal Nehemiah Frank. Oof. There's a lot there that I've learned throughout the year, and I'm still learning. But there's a lot there that you've been through a lot. We'll say that. So we're gonna definitely have to have you back on the show. But we do always like to end with a little segment called "What Hill Are You Willing to Die On?" and stuff. And so each week each episode, we kind of pick a different hill, whether it's related to something happening in the news, maybe something that you've realized internally or whatever, but to pick a hill you're willing to die on. So Meka, I'll let you go first. What hill are you willing to die on this week?
It's crazy. When we record this, we know that this question is coming, and yet it still catches me. For me, this is unrelated to anything we've talked about, but like I said, I work in a alternative school, and I think with just the conversation that we're having, for me, the hill I'm willing to die on is to elevate the voices of those that don't get heard in my school. So that is the hill that I'm willing to die on. Mike?
Yeah. I think you joined me on my hill the past 2 times. So I think I'm going to join you on this hill as far as elevating and amplifying stories of those who either often are overlooked, or stories of those who are often ignored, whether it's by other media outlets or, whether it's the youth or the youth at alternative schools, amplifying, acknowledging and amplifying those stories for sure. I'll join you on the hill because everybody has a voice, everybody has a story and experiences, and everybody wants to share that. But if we don't give everyone the opportunity to, then we're living a very small worldview for sure.
And Neo?
Well, I will say a few months ago, the hill that I was ready to die on was for Julius Jones. This innocent brother is still locked up and incarcerated for a crime he didn't commit. Yeah. With all evidence pointing to someone that he used to hang out with 20 years ago. Today, I would say the hill that I'm willing to die on is still for my community of Greenwood.
Yeah.
And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are out, over and out, and we'll catch you guys.
Tuning in and listening. Like we said, we are definitely going to have Nehemiah back on because personal Nehemiah has a lot of good insight and experiences to share that I know will help people. So Nehemiah, we appreciate you coming on and just sharing, about Black Wall Street Times. Appreciate all you do for the community, for us, and
Got you guys on the next one.
Later.